So I think I owe a public apology to Pete Rose. Yep. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I have been of the opinion that Pete Rose does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think even after he passed, I was still kind of saying no, because he broke the rule. He broke a cardinal rule. Well, okay, I shouldn't say cardinal rule, but I should say a really a specific rule. You don't gamble on sports, you don't gamble on baseball, and you don't gamble on your own team. It's uh, yeah, and it should be obvious why. You have a conflict of interest. It's insider knowledge. It's yeah, it's unethical. I mean it's unethical by any stretch, by any way you stretch it. You know, but yeah. Well, what am I thinking now? Well, I'm thinking Pete Rose is probably rolling over in his grave, and shoeless as well as our shoeless Joe Jackson, all the 1919 White Sox are, yeah. And I think Pete Rose wants to somehow you know, be resurrected back to life so he can find that judge in Lubbock County that that just granted Brendan Sorsby an injunction. The injunction, uh, yeah, yeah, a Texas judge granted. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't been paying attention to college football news lately, yeah, Brendan Sorsby, a guy who transferred he had transferred to Texas Tech, and a Texas judge. I think this was like on Monday. He a judge granted Sorsby a temporary injunction that clears the way for him to play this fall, despite being declared ineligible by the NCAA. I'm reading off of a AP news article. Uh, being declared ineligible by the NCAA for wagering on college sports, including Mets. Yeah, listen to this part. Listen to this part. Including bets made on his own team while he was at Indiana. He was in Indiana. He was playing quarterback at Indiana when he did this, and yeah, that was like a few years ago. And I'm just yeah, I like everybody else is just in shock that this is being allowed to happen. It's yeah, it's so apparently he's just going to be suspended for a couple games, and then he's going to be allowed to go back and play the season. Well, unless, well, I think the NCAA is planning to appeal, and yeah, I would think so. I would think so. I mean, this is egregious behavior. I mean, by the by the judge. Should I be shocked? I guess not, but I am. I mean, isn't in Texas that one state where that one judge let a kid off the hook for drunk driving and killing somebody in an accident because he has affluenza because of affluenza? Isn't that the same state? I don't know, but some southern state where there was like a really rich kid who had got drunk behind a wheel and uh, caused an accident that I don't know might have killed somebody. I'm not sure about the case, but yeah, yeah, and if you think affluenza is a ridiculous reason to let someone off the hook, listen to this shit. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Pardon my French, but listen to this. Do, 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 do. Um, where is it? Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Here it is. Apparently, Curry, a guy named Curry, is that the judge's name? Um. Oh yeah, Judge Ken Curry held a 2-hour hearing last week in the 99th District Court in Lubbock County, Texas, where Texas is located. Yeah, yeah. I think I heard somewhere that there was like a Texas Tech grad that was supposed to preside over this case, but then to they had to get a different guy. They had to get a different guy because conflict of interest, obviously. But yeah, I guess I guess this Curry guy, I guess he has some friends. He has some golfing buddies who are Texas Tech grads, I guess. But yeah, yeah. But anyway, Curry held a two. Okay, in Curry's decision, he wrote that he agreed Sorsby would suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if he cannot practice or play for the Red Raiders. So yeah, in other words, he would face a punishment for his actions. Yeah, yeah. And I've heard these kind of examples like this before. But it's if I if I caught libeling somebody in the paper, and if I if I claimed to a judge that any kind of jail time would make me suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury, do you think he'd let me off the hook? I don't think so. I do not think so in the slightest. I think the example the example Rich Eisen said on his show, it'd be like if you punished a kid by taking his phone, and the kid said, well, that would make me unable to communicate with my friends, make me unable to scroll Instagram. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, yeah. What's that old saying? What's that old saying? What's that old saying we used to always say? Maybe you should have thought of that before. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable the world we're in right now, man. We live in a society where apparently our presidents are just deciding to spend billions of dollars in taxpayer money to fall asleep in an NBA Finals game. I guess we're living in a society where the same presidents pretty much putting the putting coal miners in the EPA, and putting oh man, there's I mean I could go on and on about our presidents and his corruption and stuff, but this is yeah yeah Pete Rose. I mean if you wanted to come back from the grave and try to file an appeal of his banishment from Major League Baseball, and he wanted to get an injunction, he could have found this judge, and he could have claimed that the banishment caused an imminent and irreparable injury. And well, yep, I agree, Pete Rose. You're in the Hall of Fame. You get to manage baseball again. Whatever. Oh, golly. Golly. Yeah. So apparently there's a whole bunch of schools that are. Well, apparently there's a whole bunch of schools that are saying, "Oh, we might not schedule Texas Tech for any other sports. We might cancel all our games with Texas Tech now that in protest and all this shit." But you know, I mean, you could make all sorts of arguments about that. We've had. You could. I guess. Yeah, it is a lot of outrage out there about this, and I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, gee, there's been plenty of players who have done some worse things like committing domestic violence or sexual assault or whatever, and they get to play, but nobody's protesting them. Well, I guess that's fair, but that's that's something that honestly, we just I don't know. That's something that should be dealt with in criminal court. The NCAA is supposed to enforce rules that are supposed to to keep the integrity of the sport. And if a guy's gambling on a sport, if a guy's gambling on a sport that his team's playing, gambling on a game that his team is playing, then no, that's yeah, that's one of the biggest no-nos by the NCAA that you can think of, and if players are just going to be allowed to gamble on their own sports, then the NCAA, yeah, I've heard this before, and I guess I'll repeat it. The NCAA just shouldn't. Why does it exist? Why are you here? Why are you here? Yeah, yeah. You can't. Man, you can. Yeah, I don't think anybody from the NCAA Board of Governors is going to be running for any sort of office or should try to run for any sort of political office because you can't force rules for shit. uh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about how the system is broken, and they look at guys transferring from one school to another. They look at guys getting all these big big multi-million NIL deals, and they're thinking that the system's broken. No, now it's broken. Now it is most definitely broke. The system is could not be any more broken now. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, this is just, I don't know. This is, this, I mean, say what you want about professional sports, but at least they can, at least they could, say what you want about the NBA, how rigged that is, but yet, yet no, yet when their players get caught gambling, they get arrested. You know, and that everybody talks about everybody's and I think I've said before what my theory is on the Michael Jordan on his first retirement, whether that's a secret suspension or not. I've I've as I've said many times before. No, I don't think it. No, don't think it's secret suspension. Everybody talks about, oh, he spent all these big amounts of dollars on gambling, and so it must have been a secret suspension for gambling. Well, first of all, we've gone about 20. This has been more than 30 years since that first retirement, and we still don't have any evidence that he broke any rules of the NBA or broke any laws. Yeah, find that. Yeah, where's your proof? Where's your proof? Where's your proof that he did? That's one thing. And secondly, nobody has managed to answer the question that I've been asking for about Michael Jordan, for about Michael Jordan's first retirement, about the conspiracy of the secret suspension or whatever. No, nobody has given me an answer to this question. Why would he be suspended at all? Why suspend him? I mean, okay, if you wanted to bury, if you wanted to bury any of Jordan's wrongdoings under the rug, then you could have just done that and just let him play, and nobody would, not a whole lot of people would have batted an eye, and but because you suspended him, because you what because you well because or because you retired or whatever. Yeah, now we still years later have people who think that this was a secret suspension. I mean, why and asking why else would Jordan retire in the middle of his prime, and all these type of questions, and then and they yeah, I mean, and also it, whether you suspend him or whether you don't whether you secretly suspend him, either way he's not playing, so your ratings are going to go down. So what's is David Stern really going to do that? Come on. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit naive, but I'm just, yeah. um Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I still don't have an answer for that. And if anybody wants to give me an answer, please do leave a comment. Please do. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, okay. Where was I going? Oh yeah. But yeah, yeah. You got Pete Rose, who got banned for life for gambling on his for betting on his own team. You have the Black Sox, who were banned for life for betting against their own team. And by the way, and betting on your own team to win, that's not any better. I mean, for one thing, Pete Rose, did things to help his team in the short term win games, but that really hurt him in the long run. For one thing, and another thing, if it tips off gamblers when you bet on your own team, and on in games you don't bet on your own team. What's that going to tell the gamblers? That's yeah, but yeah. Yeah, you got all these people who, you got the all time Major League Baseball leader in hits. He's not in the Hall of Fame because he gambled. Meanwhile, some judge in Texas looks at a guy who admitted to gambling several times on his own team, on his own team's games, and he's like, yeah, but we don't want to punish you for it, so we're just gonna let it slide. Nah, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. Maybe the notion that action should have consequences is outdated. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm just getting old. I mean, I did watch that White Sox game where they, yeah, yeah, it's Chicago Sports Network. They last night they did a little They had Bob Costas as the play-by-play announcer for a White Sox game, and they had these 80s style graphics that they did everything with, and that was a. I'll admit that was a pretty good time. It was neat to hear Bob Costas talk about some of the old things that old baseball games and stuff, and old players and stuff. And yeah, it was really fun. It was a fun podcast. And if Al Michaels ever gets it to a point where he's just sick and tired of doing play by play for a game every week, but it's not at a point where he can't do any games at all. Maybe he could just show up on, as a guest commentator, on some NFL games where they do throwback jerseys and stuff. Yeah, that'd be kind of, and talks about all the old stories back when they wore those uniforms and stuff, and that'd be that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Special Sunday night games, special Monday night games where they do that. That'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's. Yeah. I guess that's about all I had to talk about. I mean, this. Yeah, I know it's a little. I know it's a little early for me to do this podcast, but a little early in the week. But this. Man, this story about Brendan Sorsby being allowed to play is it's just stuck in my craw quite a bit. Yeah. But on another related note, on another related note, we've got a we got we put a post on our Facebook page talking about how we can sponsor sponsor Facebook posts. I put a lot of as many of you guys know, I put a lot of pictures on our Facebook page, and I know some of you like to take those like to download those on your own pages and put them up. Some of you put them up on social media, and some of you give it to the News Gazette. But I'm not that. No, that's just gonna make me mad revisiting that. But so I won't. But anyway, I'm thinking to myself. Maybe we got hundreds of people liking the posts and stuff. So maybe some people, some local businesses would like to sponsor said posts. And if you do, if you are interested, and let me know. Let me know. Yeah, maybe I'll. Yeah, maybe I'll just. Yeah, maybe I'll determine which games to go to. But I'm not gonna confirm that. That would be against journalism ethics. But then again, if I get caught doing anything, I can just say that the consequences would cause irreparable injury, and whatever. All right, but I'm kidding. I'm not gonna. No. Everything I'm doing, trying to make money. I'm gonna make sure I do this all with discretion, and make sure it doesn't interfere with my, what interfere with what I should be doing ethically as a journalist. I'm just gonna, yeah. Yeah. All right. I think okay. I should probably go before I incriminate myself some more. All right. Well, this has been Drew Rosten. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys next time.